So I want to talk just a little bit. I was in St. Petersburg a week ago Saturday at Glenn's MG service in St. Petersburg, Florida. Had a good time. We had, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 people there. That was a pleasure. Dan Newman was there. I've known Dan since 1985. And Doc uh, Dreyer was there. Those are the two nonagenarians. I'm used to septuagenarians. I'm one of those, and octogenarians. There's some of those on the Zoom tonight. But we get two guys in their 90s there. And then Art Lewis was there too. He is from Grand Rapids. I've known him since 1973, excuse me, when I moved to Grand Rapids. And he was in Florida and thought he'd come along and have a good time. So we tuned up a car. I tuned up Glenn's car, actually. He hadn't retuned it since he'd rebuilt the engine. So we went through the tune-up and did the valves and took the distributor out, set the points, talked about how to set the points, took the carburetors part way apart, looked at them, checked float heights, and did a drop test, all that kind of stuff that's essential to do during the tune-up. Got that back together, adjusted it, ran great. Glenn's car, it ought to run great. Anyway, had a real good time. And then the week before that, I was in, I want to say Fairhope, Alabama. It wasn't, but it's close to Fairhope on the east side of Mobile Bay. And we had about 44 people there for a seminar about electrics. And I brought along from home just a whole bunch of props, switches and fuel tank sending units and gauges and lights and generators and alternators and all kinds of electrical things. We talked about electrics all day long, and that was a really good time. That was sponsored by the Southern Alabama British Car Club. So a shout out to Glenn and shout out to the Southern Alabama British Car Club. I didn't get over to Pensacola this year. Maybe I'll get over there next year when I come down. Anyway, so those are really good times. The next event I'm attending is the Chicagoland MG Club's annual swap meet, which is in Wheaton, Illinois, at the DuPage County Fairgrounds. It's Sunday, like the 24th. I think that's about right. Now, the 24th of March. It's a Sunday event. It's fast. We get set up around 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're out of there by 2 in the afternoon. Good time to see lots of people. There's always people in there selling all kinds of fun stuff. There's nothing quite as exciting as someone else's box of broken and used parts. But they're real vendors. Real vendors. They're vendors who are actually selling new things there too. Jerry Levant is often there. I don't know if he's going to be there this year from Liverpool Motor Works. He's got a lot of tools, literature, stuff like that he sells. Anyway, that's the introduction. And now I want to get on to MGA restoration. And again, this covers TC and TD and TF. But I had a couple of questions posed to me just recently about MGA restoration. So I thought, why not start with this? And I'm also trying to collect all my notes from the past 20 years, little quips and notes and charts and so forth that I've written, and trying to put it into a more cohesive little booklet. So my first comment about an MGA restoration is, what? Are you mad? I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. Why would you restore an MGA? Why? Go out and buy one. I mean, I don't know what the nicest one is out there, but say a really nice one. You can pay 30 grand for it. No, that's nothing, nothing compared to how much money and how much time you're going to have invested in restoring a car that you might choose. So let's drop back down from that, because that's the cheapest way of doing it. Just write a check for it. So now we're dealing with a car that your parents had, your brother was killed in Vietnam. It was his car. It was the car you had your first date with your wife in. It's a car you've promised yourself you're going to restore for the past 30 years. And there it is still sitting, and it's just something you're going to do. So again, the first and easiest thing is whip out the checkbook, be prepared to spend 100, I don't know, 150 grand and pay somebody to restore it. Somebody good. A lot of people take the money and not do a good job. Oh my gosh. I can start to tell shop horror stories. We had one guy with an MGA out of Detroit. I think he was a dentist. And the guy who was restoring his car for him said, well, I need a 10 grand deposit. And that turned into some kind of white powder that went up the guy's nose, and he was no further ahead. So then he brought the car to us and had to spend that much money and a lot more to get his car done. I had another guy from Ohio with an MGB and ran into a guy and says, hey, you want MGB? I'll find the car and I'll restore it for you for 10 grand. It's like, no, you can't do that. But the purchaser, the buyer, the owner didn't realize that. And so every now and then, the guy who's doing the restoration would send along the money. And finally, it got to the point where the restorer said, hey, I just got to, it's just making a little tappet noise, and I just got to get rid of that, and I deliver the car. The guy got all excited and drove down to look at it, and all there was a painted body shell. So anyway, that came out of his shop. Another guy with a TD, and I mean, I can go on with all these horror stories, ones that I'm intimately familiar with. Another guy in Chicago had a TD forever, took it to a guy, yeah, I can restore it and everything. And he couldn't get his car back. I mean, he quit paying him, but the guy wouldn't ever give him his car back. He would never allow him to come onto his property and collect his car. And finally, this guy said, I just had to make the mental step that my car is gone. It's lost. Forget about it. I'm never going to see it again. And for a present, his wife got a lawyer and the sheriff involved and got the car back, and then brought it up to our shop, and we finished the restoration. So anyway, you can write a check, but don't pay anybody too much too fast. The best way of paying is weekly or monthly, and get pictures and watch what's going on and go there and take a look at it. Don't just blindly trust. So most of us can't write a check for 100 or 150. Why would you do that anyway? Because the car is a personal car. It belonged to your mother. She bought it new, and you got the money in them, and you can afford to do it. Most of us enjoy the process. So if you're going to restore the car, first of all, you've got to enjoy the process, because you're not going to make any money at this. It doesn't matter if the former owner gives you the car and 5 grand. You're going to be upside down right instantly. So there's 2 ways to go about a restoration when you've got a car. Car's been off the road for 40 years. If it's all apart, that's yet another issue. But been off the road for 40 years, hey, clean it up. Go through, do the brakes, change the fuel tank, and get the engine loosened up, and go out and drive it and see what you got, and then decide what to do. Maybe do a rolling road restoration, which means that 1 year, one time, you do the front suspension, and then you do the rear suspension, and then you do the interior, and then you do the paint. Well, you should do the paint before you do the interior, but you get the point. You're driving it, but you're doing one part of it at a time while the car remains relatively mobile. But if you're into it, and if you're ready to take the plunge, and you say, you know what, I'm going to restore this car because that is my fantasy. This is my idea of spending time. I just love doing this stuff. I love polishing a piece of brass and making it look pretty. I love going through each and every one of these little things. Then what I would tell you to do is take the car, whether it's all apart or all together, and walk around it and look at it and say, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to need? Well, you know you need to paint it almost always. Sometimes you don't. It's paint's good enough for who it's for. You just need to have it buffed out. But you need all new gaskets, body gaskets. You want to walk around the car with a Moss Motors catalog, someone's catalog, and a yellow highlighter, and strip out item after item after item that you want to buy new, and then order all of that stuff right then. You're going to have to order more because you don't have a complete list, but order all that stuff then. Why? Because you can get a discount if you're going to order $5,000 worth of stuff. You talk to your salesman; they'll cut you a deal. And the second thing is that stuff goes on backward. So you're getting right down to it. You're gonna do a speedy restoration. You're gonna drive your MGA to GT49 in Portland, Oregon this year, and you're right down to it. And you order the steering wheel, and the steering wheel is back ordered. What are you gonna do? So if you order all the stuff at the beginning, by the time you need it, you'll have it. This project's going to take you a while to do. And then, and this is the most important information you're going to get, the whole Zoom session tonight. This is the critical sentence. Do one part at a time. One part at a time. Now you can take that whole car, you can take a whole MGA. I took my TD apart in about 3 days. I got home from Vietnam. What happened? Oh, the engine had failed on it. So I thought I'll just restore the whole thing. And I think it was a 3-day frenzy. And I took everything apart, the fuel pump, took everything apart. And then you have a mountain of nuts and bolts and pieces of bracket and metal, and you'll never get it back together. I mean, it's just, oh my God, that's just a pile of junk, and it has no value while it's like that. So instead, take one part at a time. Take your MGA, just take off the left rear tail lamp. What are you going to do to it? I mean, you've already decided what you're going to do to it. You're going to change the lens, okay? You're going to put a new bulb in it. You're switching over to LEDs, so maybe you get an insert for an LED or an LED 1157 bulb. You've got a gasket that goes on the back of the unit. You're going to take the original chrome piece and you're going to buff it up, or you're going to buy a new one, or you're like ultimately crazy and you're going to take the whole lamp assembly apart and have it chromed. Oh my God, that's just craziness, but hey, to each his own. And whatever you're going to do to it then completely, absolutely. Then take that piece, wrap it up in a piece of plastic, put it up on the shelf, and take the next piece off. Now, this doesn't work for everything. I mean, if you're going to do the rear bumper, what? You're going to send the rear bumper out and have it plated and wait for that to happen before you take off the front bumper? No, stuff goes in sections and everything, but just don't get too far ahead of yourself. I can make a case for taking every single nut and bolt in the car that you can see and having them zinc plated. Just take all the original nuts and bolts, tumble them first, and take them to your local plater. They're all over the place. The zinc plater, have them bright zinc plated, and then you're using a bolt which looks like the bolt that came on the car. It's got a circle in the middle of the bolt where it says GNK or Linreed or something on the bolt, rather than an American-made bolt, which you can tell immediately. So it depends on whether you want to do this like really originally or just have it work. Another question you've got right at the beginning is, do you want to make the car original? Oh boy, I want to have the most original MGA that was ever restored. Or do you want to, I'm going to put a 5-speed in it, and I'm going to put in a B engine, I'm going to put a supercharger on it, and I'm going to put MGB gears in it. And I like these Corvette seats, so I'm going to replace the MGA seats with Corvettes. Whatever. Those are decisions that you want to make too, real early on. So anyway, you keep walking around and around and around the car, and pretty soon you got it pretty well stripped down. You got as much off that car as you possibly can. Then you repair the body as it sits in place and the frame after you lift the body off it. Lift the body off the frame? Absolutely. You've got two very large parts of car here. You got the chassis with the running gear, the engine, the gearbox, the differential, the brake system, and gas tank, floorboards. You've got that part of the car, and you have the body part of the car. And if you're going to do a complete restoration, you want to have the body on sawhorses so that you can reach around and actually get your hand, around the firewall so you can put stuff together. And you can assemble almost the entire car. You can make a case for putting the front fenders on the car while it's on the sawhorses. Now it's starting to get heavy. So when you go to lift it up, which takes 6 or 8 really guys, lift the thing up and put it back down on the chassis that you've already had done. So you get the body work done on the chassis, then you repair the chassis, and while the body's out at the body shop getting done, the body shop will look at the project and say, yeah, we'll do that for $4,000 and it'll take us 2 months. Well, it's going to cost you $14,000 and it's going to take a year. The MGA body, not the T-types, not the Bs, the MGA body is the most difficult body of all the British cars. I don't know about E-type, but E-type Jag, but there's not one straight line on the
Austin Healey's worse.
Okay, all right, okay.
Mine's worse.
I don't get Austin Healey's. I don't get it. I mean, they're like, they cost 3 or 4 times as much as a real nice MG, and they're just awful to work on. And if you can't, you're banned from your brother-in-law's driveway because his wife is pissed off that you got all those oil drips on it. And if you drive down his private road, it's got a speed bump in it. It tears the exhaust off, and if you have to go up anyway, enough about Healey's. So anyway, the MGA body is just a real bugger, and if the body shop's never done an MGA before, they won't want to do another one. They won't want to do another one. It's really hard to get straight lines. There is a straight line from the rear of the front wheel arch to just behind the door. That's a horizontal straight line. But everything else in the car is a compound curve. And what we used to do at the shop, once we had them stripped, we were doing body work at the shop. We used to strip the car down as far as you could get it, DA it down to where most of the metal was showing, do as many of the repairs as you possibly could, cover the whole body with Bondo, and then sand it away until about two-thirds of the Bondo was gone, and metal was there. It's just really difficult to do an A, and getting everything fitted. Oh my gosh. T-types are a dream. Everything overlaps. You use great big round fender welting, cover up for errors, but the MGA is just a terror. Anyway, while it's off being redone, the body's off being redone, then you build up the chassis. I had a picture of Bruce Reed driving his MGA chassis around. You got to put a radiator, you got to put the master cylinder in it. But other than that, and I put a battery someplace and mount a coil. But other than that, it's a driving chassis, and you can actually go out and drive it. And sometimes, if you're doing this yourself, you need that burst right then. Like you get the chassis done where it's mobile, and you go out and you actually drive it. You shift through the gears and you go, yes, it works. Oh my gosh, now you can't drive it at 90, you can't drive it at 60. Can't drive it for a long time because it's unlicensed. You can't put it on the road and stuff, but you can drive it around a little bit and just make sure that everything seems to feel okay. Then you put that in the corner, cover it with plastic for the next couple months or couple years, depends on how long this whole project takes you, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then you build up the body. And as I said, you put the dash in it, the wiring, as much, you can put the soft top on it if you want. You can put as much on there as you can. I think on an MGA, I'd leave the front fenders off, but I put the rear fenders on. And then you marry the two right towards the end. And the last thing, the last item that you install on an MGA, absolutely positively the last item is the grill, because there's no way to get that bonnet open, and you want to make sure that that bonnet opens and closes perfectly without any problem at all before you put the grill in, and make it impossible to reach the bonnet without wrecking the grill. Now there's some cool little tools you can get. There's safety wires you can put in and so forth to help get the bonnet open if you have to, but that's not original. So anyway, just you have to watch that. You want to arm yourself before you get going with as much information as you possibly can. The Michigan chapter of NAMGAR put out a technical book called A Antics 20 years ago. You can still find them out and about, A Antics, and that's got a lot of technical stuff in it. Greg Prihodka, when he was running MG Vintage Racers, they had a technical publication, and that's helpful. This is not a race car. I'm not talking about race cars, but some race attention to detail that racers do is helpful for street cars. I got to take a look at my cheat sheet here. You got the Haynes books that tell you how to do stuff with vice grips and a hammer. You've got Todd Clark, the late Todd Clark, Clark Spares and Restoration, put out a little tiny booklet, but it's so helpful because it's got things like the firewall in it and which line, which cable goes through which hole. Now, before beginning on this project, assuming it's all together, you can take 1,000 photos with your phone. Didn't used to be that way. Now you can take lots and lots and lots of photos, and it doesn't make any difference how many you take. You haven't got enough when it goes to putting stuff back together. You can't look behind something. You go, what goes back there? Which line goes on top? Which line goes where? Those kinds of things. So take lots and lots and lots of pictures. And then the factory workshop manuals are the critical manuals. You've got the factory workshop manual, the AKD 600, which is the MGA manual. And what is this? My cheat sheet here. It's the 926 is the twin cam. Then you've got the parts manuals. And I'll tell you, you can forget about the workshop manuals and just work with the parts manuals. They're the most beautiful parts manuals that British Leyland ever put out. I mean, it runs up through about 1965 on the MGB, the same style of parts manual, plate after plate after plate of extreme detail. And you can tell which way the nut or bolt goes. You can tell if the lock washer is a star washer or a helical lock washer. You can tell if it's a castle nut. You can tell so much by just looking at the picture. So those are critical. That's the parts manual. And there's a parts manual for the 1500, for the 1600 Mark II, and for the twin cam. And don't forget the driver's handbooks. There are about 6 of those. One 1500, 1600 Mark II twin cam, a supplement for the deluxe. So there's a bunch of manuals. Plus, there are several books on the market whose names I can't. Malcolm Green is the only one I can think of right now off the top of my head, because I'm not at home and I haven't got my library behind me. But if you look in these books about, the amazing MGA, the title I just made up, and you look at how they were made in the factory, that gives you a sequence. That gives you a sequence of how to approach it and what goes in first and second and third. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. Someone else, whatever you're going to do to a restoration here, someone else has already done. If you got a TD, it's Horst Schock wrote a real nice book. It's really helpful. Bob Petrikis wrote the first MGA restoration book, but it's not so much about restoration as about the car itself. It really doesn't tell you how to do anything or where something goes, but it tells you something about it. There we go. Judd's just put up the that whole series, the original. This is the original T series, and you got the original MGA. Most of those are by Clausinger, who was the archivist at British Motor Heritage. Now, the first one, the T-type book, isn't by him, is it? I don't think so. And there's a Sprite Midget book too. But anyway, those are all of them together. Just, the complete workshop manual is about a foot wide, and every half an inch, every 3/4 of an inch costs you another $60. But knowledge is power. You want to, if you're doing an MGA, Barney Gaylord's website, mgaguru.com, is wonderfully helpful. It's great. He's got so much detail in there. You also have the forums, but you got to balance those forums out. I tell these stories over and over. The guy writes in the forum and says, "Oh, my MGA is making a squeak out of the right front," and somebody else says, "Oh, my MGA was doing that." And that same day, my wife bought a cat, and it never squeaked after that. So maybe you should buy a cat. It's like, not another friggin' cat, Fred. So you gotta separate the wheat from the chaff. And sometimes if you're a beginner, it's really hard to tell because you got all these people weighing in. You get these professional disagreements. It's like, well, I'm gonna paint my MGA aluminum radiator. I'm gonna get an aluminum radiator because I read about all this stuff with the brass radiators. Aluminum radiators are so much better, but I don't want that great big ugly aluminum radiator underneath my bonnet. I'm gonna paint it black. And someone says, "Oh, if you paint it black, it isn't gonna dissipate the heat." No, but aren't all radiators black at night? So you get all these professional disagreements. I can't even answer that one. But you get all these professional disagreements. So you have to cut through that. And what I'm hoping to do tonight is to listen to some comments that people have and make a couple notes. And I want to combine my information and put together just a real simple little booklet, sort of an overview, not withdraw the bolt, not a workshop manual, withdraw the bolt and do this. But do you buy new nuts and bolts? Do you get your old ones replated? The chrome, do you clean up the chrome you've got? Do you buy new chrome? Do you have your original piece replated? You can make a case for all three of those. And if you buy the new chrome, make sure you paint the back side of it like a bumper. Just paint it really, really heavily with some kind of silver paint. So the rust, it slows down the advance of the rust, which begins the moment you put it on the car. If you get your original stuff replated, oh my gosh, triple plate, nickel copper, chrome. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. But if you send out your bumpers from your MGA to from what's the chrome shop in Pennsylvania. Anyway, it might cost you $1,200. You can get two new ones out of the catalogs, for like $300. So it's like, is it good enough for who it's for? Are you making the best restoration in the world? So another thing to consider is how often and how quickly you're going to get this thing done. When I first moved to Grand Rapids in 1973, there were a group of 3 guys. And they all had TCs, and they'd all taken them apart at about the same time. They're all going to restore them. And on Thursday nights, they would gather in the next guy's house, round robin, and work on the other guy's car. All they did was sit and drink beer, and nothing ever got done. So that's not the way to approach this. You got to do it yourself. But understand that throughout the time that you're working on the restoration project, that you're going to have a certain amount of money. You're going to have a lot of money in the beginning. because you've already planned for it. That's what you're going to do. So you got that. What about time? Well, in the beginning, you got lots of time because that's what you're going to do. But then later on, I don't. Something happens. Your boss says, "Hey, you're going TDY to Phoenix for a month." It just stuff happens. Stuff happens. And also you've got your resolve. It's like when you start off on the project, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to work on it every day, 2 hours a day, or I'm going to work on it 3 days a week. And stuff comes up, stuff gets in the way. And then your interest kind of falls off. And then after a year, then your wife says, look, I mean, I'm not telling you what you don't know, but I know I've seen the checkbook and you've already got $23,000 in this and it's in the garage and you haven't touched it in 2 months and my car's sitting out in the acid rain. Whatever happened to acid rain? I haven't heard about that recently. Anyway, then she gives you a kick and you get going again. There's also the function of how well you want to do the car. In the beginning, you might say, I'm going to have the most beautiful car in the world. And then a year into it, 2 years into it, you say, if I'm going to get this done by the time I'm dead, I guess I've got to back off on my desire for quality. And the frustration is that the last thing you do, which is the body, like attending to the outside of the body, is the only thing anyone ever sees. They don't see how carefully you put the U-joint in the drive shaft. No one sees that. They only see what's showing on the outside, and that's what gets done last. So some people start with a real demand for real quality, and just that falls away, just naturally falls away. What's worse is when you start off and you say, I'm just going to restore the car and have a good time, and they get it done. It's going to be real nice. But it's not going to be a show car. And then very, very incrementally, your desire for perfection increases. You can take pills for this. It's like ADD or anything else. But oh my gosh, I've had some customers who could not get their cars done because their demand for quality exceeded their ability, and they couldn't hire it done because that wouldn't meet their ability either. They had to sell their cars partway through a restoration because they just couldn't do it. It's a mental deal, but so what? So anyway, you put all those factors together: the money, the time, the resolve, your desire for getting it done the way that you want to get it done, and you end up with a line that waves. So you work on it really heavily, just like myopically for 4 months. And finally somebody in the house says, hey, there's other people here too, like, what about this? What about that? And you fall away from it. And then you get back onto it again. So just expect that you're going to have stops and starts throughout, aside from the fact that the body shop's lied and it's been there for 18 months and it still isn't done. Or you can't get the chrome back or the parts on back order, that kind of stuff. So anyway, just a real quick recap. What are you, crazy? Buy one. Switch the title plates, all the title plates are the where it's stamped into the frame on an MGA is worn away. In the whole time I've ever worked with MGAs, I've only ever seen 2 that you could read the numbers on the chassis. So you can just switch the number plates and just go, you know what, that's good enough. I know it's not really my car, but it's not the same air that they put in Abingdon either. It's not the same tires. It's not the same brake pads. So just extend it out to the whole vehicle. You get what you want. Then if you are going to do it, then pay somebody. You got to pay somebody to do some of it anyway. You're not going to grind the crank yourself. Probably most people don't have that ability. Some people are phenomenal in their abilities. It's just uncanny what they can do. And most people can't do everything, the seats or whatever. I have run into a couple of people who've done almost everything on the car themselves, except for that really fine machine work, and it looked like it. In the end, it's a product of their own effort. and bully for them. But it would have looked better if they, in the stuff you see, hired somebody that could do it better than them rather than doing it the first time around. So then, if you're going to do it yourself, do one part at a time. One part at a time. That is just so important. Just if you have to move, all of a sudden it's like you have to move to Phoenix. I don't know why Phoenix is on my mind tonight. You got to move to Phoenix. If the car is all in pieces, you got to load it into a 55-gallon drum. The great big parts. We had a TD come in. They had a rolling chassis. I think the body was on it, but everything else was in a couple of 55-gallon drums. Oh my gosh. The guy moved it across the country twice in his lifetime, then brought it to us, and we took it out of the 55-gallon drums and got it done. So anyway, it's a huge project. It's huge. And it's just so much fun to be in the process. You've got to love the process. It's a great operation. It's a great thing to do. You have so much fun. There's nothing like being stuck in middle management someplace where your boss is taking your idea and put his name on it, but you can go home at night, and take a brass fitting from the brakes and clean it up and put it on the buffing wheel and make it shine. It's like instant. It's instant satisfaction, like mowing the lawn or something. It's great stuff. But pace yourself, get a plan before you get going. Arm yourself with as much information as you can, especially those workshop manuals, or especially the parts manuals. Oh my gosh, those are so critical to knowing what to do. But don't always trust them. They're not always right.
Are those parts manuals still available for purchase?
You can go. MG Owners Club in England has CDs. Well, they used to have CDs. I don't know how they do it now. It's like talking about Netflix. They don't. Netflix hardly sends out a disc anymore. But yeah, you can find them on. I think you can probably find them on eBay. And if you contact me, I can make a copy of one and get it to you. I've got
that'd be great.
I've got the AKD 3227 MGB already stored as a digital file, so I can print those out.
Well, I'm finishing up my B right now, and I got a 65 pull handle. So yeah, I would love to see what you have on the pull handle.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's the nuts. That's the nuts. So as long as Greg is weighed in here, I want to remind everybody that there's a huge MGB meet in Katy, Texas, April 20th, around there.
I think it's a 20. Hang on, I'll tell you. But
anyways, you can go on the NAMGBR, North American MGB Registers site, and take a look at it.
Normally, it's the 22nd through Wednesday to 24th.
Right. Usually it's in the middle of the summer, but you can't have a car meet in the middle of the summer in Texas. At least not right now, because it's way too hot. So I did one in Grapevine, Texas. Carolyn and I drove
in 02.
Was that 02?
Yeah, it was 02, and you did it with Wayne Kuby.
Yep. And that was, oh my gosh, that was so friggin' hot. We got up, Carolyn and I got up in the morning at 3 o'clock in the morning to drive back home, and we walked out of the hotel, and it's like took my breath away. It's so hot. I just couldn't believe we were going to be in that. And we drove out of that concrete jungle, drove. And I don't know, we must have put a couple hundred miles on the car before it started to cool down as we, began to move our way up through Oklahoma or something or other, or Missouri, or however we got there. So
that's why we don't volunteer to do the Namburger and the Namgar events here in Texas, because it's unbelievably rough.
But this year it's in April.
So, April 22nd.
Yeah. All right. So
John, I have access to your library here. So I posted a whole bunch of MGA titles that I could grab quick, and a few people put in some other ones. So They're there for the grabbing.
Are they in your chat? Are they in the chat?
Yeah,
Yes, yep,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
We scan John's library, so I have his numbers by book numbers are called ISBINs. So
Well, you know, John talked, you spoke earlier about the process of, you know, putting it in order. Well, I took my B completely apart, which is what you told us not to do, but I took the B completely apart. It took me 2 days to put the window, put the, you know, the crank up window and the driver's door, because I did it in probably the worst combination of ways you do it. Once I figured it out, the passenger door went in about 2 hours, but it took me 2 days to get the other one in. So yeah, those manuals would be really quite helpful if you could, they're available.
yep,
One
yep.
source for things like that might be Gord Watley's Armchair Motorist. I think he has a website. He certainly has an ad in TSO, but I can post his email address on your chats if you want, John.
Sure, you can do that, Jeff. So Gord's got a lot of books.
Oh,
I don't think he hasn't got factory manuals. He hasn't got, I was just up there a year ago at his house. So I bought a bunch of stuff from him. And he didn't have any factory manuals, but I do have copies of factory manuals, and we can arrange to get some copies out to people who want them. I mean, physical copies. If you can find a CD in MG Owners Club in Swavesey, Swavesey, which is Cambridge, in England, they used to sell all of those on CD. I just have to go there and take a look. You can't use the CD out in the shop, so you have to print it. But the advantage of having a CD is that you can print 6 copies of the chassis diagram, and then when one of them gets too filthy dirty sitting on the workbench, you can get the next one. I like working with a hard copy, a tangible copy. I don't have a computer out in the shop. Fortunately, I'm on it too much anyway. So anyway, that's the thing, and you know, whether you use polypropylene bushings or the original bushings or anti-seize or grease or those are all techniques. I'm not going to talk about those tonight. I just want to get you thinking about, you know, that first of all, you're crazy for doing it, but it's just so much fun. I mean, what else are you going to do? You know, it's just so much fun to have a product of your own work that you can get into and drive, and people see it and compliment you.
Well, when I was putting a door together, I was looking on YouTube. It's amazing how many YouTubes are out there, how to take them apart. There is not one YouTube that how to put it together. At least I wasn't able to find it. So if one of y'all on this call knows how to find a YouTube on how to put one together, God, I'd be first to want to see it.
I'm reminded. I should.
Can you play it in reverse?
Well, yeah, but yeah, you would think that would be the way it goes, and that's what I tried to do. And but again, it's not quite as straightforward. Again, every one of them is different, so the process that they take them apart is all different. So yeah, it's quite a challenge. All I'm saying, the B is the doors were the hardest thing I had to do.
I believe that. On my daughter's car, I asked Brian, who worked for me in the 80s, maybe the early 90s, for 3 or 4 years, and he helps me. It helps me do a lot of stuff around the house. And he's really handy with doors. He can make doors. I had him do my daughter's GT. You close the door, it just goes click. First of all, it shuts right. It looks right. And the windows, I don't know how he does it. He's got the gift. You know, I don't, not on doors.
Well, passenger door is always closed better than a driver's door. They don't get as much wear.
Probably.
John,
So let me
Can I talk to you about the paint?
Yes.
The paint codes that we have on the through the company right here for your MGs, They are no longer being able to have them mixed. They went to the new paint right here, the water-based stuff.
Right.
It's gone. So it took me about a year and a half before I found the correct paint for my car. And when it comes to restoration of the vehicle, I believe that the body should be done first before you go into the drivetrain.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. If I wasn't clear on that, that's sure what I meant. Is you go round and round the body, you get the body done, you get the body welded, you send it out to the body shop. And while it's at the body shop getting done, then you do the chassis.
And
Anyway,
if you run out of money, you've got the hard part done already.
yeah. John, I sent mine out to a guy to do check on the squareness of my frame and to put my rocker panels on. I did not want to do the rocker panels. This guy right there, when I talked to him, he was manager of the body shop at the local car lot over here. And him and his son worked there, and they showed me pictures of MGs that they have done in the past over there. So we cut a deal for him to do my rocker panels and do the square, check the frame out to make sure that it was square. I got the rocker panels from Carl up there by your place. I think I paid about $130, $180 a piece for them because they were supposed to fit. Well, it turned out those rocker panels were just a little bit too tall. And instead of going ahead and making the cut and shorten them and weld them back up there, I went over there and to visit on there finally after about 6 months. And I put my hand down there to feel the rocker panels on there. And I felt one great big long dent from the back to the front. They had put it on there and they had beaten it in there to put it on. They had the car for 2.5 years and they didn't do nothing. I mean, nothing. So I got the car back and I put the rocker panels on. I did the body work myself and I've done the paint job on it. It looks, I say it's about as good as anything you can find. I talked to, when you were at your party, over there, summer party, I was looking at some of the real nice paint jobs inside the engine compartment, all through there. Beautiful work on there, especially, from Southern Ohio, Terry
Luft.
Terry Loof.
Yes. Beautiful job on his. And like I said, I was talking to various people, but these people have been paying 20 grand for a paint job.
Yes.
I've got roughly on my paint job alone, the paint that I got, I got the base coat, clear coat, and because of the color on there, I had to go with a 2014 Lamborghini blue, which boosted an extra $500. But the paint ran me, I believe the base coat itself ran me close to about $1,800. I was lucky enough that I used SPI for the epoxy and the 2K. And this company is really great. You got a problem or you don't know what you're doing, you just pick up the phone, call them, and they're right there to help you out. You can't help for a better way. And like I say, the paint job turned out looked like a $20,000 paint job.
Very nice. Very nice. One comment about all bodies, but especially the MGA body, is that everything is predicated by the position of the door. So you start with the A-pillar, which is the front of the door, you mount the door on it, and then you make everything else fit the door, and you make the whole body fit the door. It is so important that you're looking for those gaps that are the same size. But I can't speak much about body work because I don't know much about it. I hire that done, and 20 grand for doing an MGA is probably a fair price right now. I haven't been in the shop, haven't had a shop since 15. And in 2016. And the last MGB we had painted, I think was 12 grand. So, you know, it's like, the joke about body shops is you want it right, you want it cheap, you want it fast. Choose two of those. So we chose, we wanted it fast and we wanted it right. So, so so that's why it costs so much, you know, it's just great. So whose car
Hey,
is this?
Judd, this is Judd.
Yeah,
On paint, this is my neighbor's car, the maroon TD. And about the same time he was doing that in a paint booth that we built in his garage out of 2x4s and plastic, and he sprayed it himself. And a friend of ours put 10 grand from a local super duper supposed to be restoration shop to have his TR4 painted. Honestly, Peter's home spray looks better than that TR4. So I don't know where these people are coming off charging 20 and 15 to $20,000. Now, granted, TD is nice because you can take it apart like an erector set and paint all the parts and then put it back together. But you can do it yourself and make it look really, really good. I have had zero enjoyment or success from, quote, professional painters.
yeah. Well, you got it's a two-way street with a professional painter. You got to tell him exactly what you want, and then you've got to be there pretty frequently, not to bug him, because most of them are prima donnas, and so they'll get mad. But just enough to encourage them. How's that? Maybe that sounds better.
That sounds good.
But I can pull up examples of people who painted their cars themselves, and of all the things that they should have hired done, that's the one thing they should have hired done. So if you put enough paint on the car, you put enough paint on it, theoretically you can buff it out so it looks nice.
Well,
And
that's
you
the
can
whole
always
idea.
go to
This-
Earl Scheib.
you can-
Girl side, $29.95 any car. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah,
was
but do it the
my-
Karate Kid special. You know, the Karate
Well,
Kid, put it on, sand it off.
But it isn't just the paint that you're worried about. It's all the welding and all that kind of stuff. So you can take welding classes. I don't know if Carl still has welding classes or not, but Carl Heidemann, Eclectic Motorworks in Holland, Michigan, used to have welding classes, and he's got like 5 rules of welding, or 4 or 5 rules of welding. You have to be in a good mood, you know. You have to be able to see. You have to be comfortable. You can't weld rust or dirt. And maybe there's something else too. They're just real simple rules. And then there's some technique to it too, of course. And then there's just practice. And some people have the gift, and some people do not. So you know, it's just like anything else. You know, either you're pretty good with that stuff, or better to find somebody who can do it. Well, like building an engine. You know, I mean, do you build the bottom end of the engine yourself, or do you let the machine shop take care of the bottom end of the engine? You can put the head on, that's pretty easy. You can, you know, but the bottom end, you know, putting all that together and making sure the clearances are all right and stuff. You got to find your own comfort level, you know, when you're doing this, and you got to balance that all off with the time and money and so forth. I mean, there's no point in flying to Holland, Michigan for 2 weekends and learning how to weld your car and buying a couple $1,000 worth of welding equipment, and then learning to weld on your own car if you haven't got the gift and you're not able to weld so well, you know. So you know, it's all a toss up. It's all a toss up.
On the subject of the sills, rockers, the Kilmartin sills, you know, from Australia fit really well first time. I had no trouble with those at all, and their dog leg repair sections, you know, fit up with them. So I don't know whether anyone in the States has got experience of using those. But
What's the name of the firm?
Kilmartin.
Kilmartin. Yes. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I know stuff comes and goes too. You know, you can get some really, really nice stuff, and then all of a sudden, you know, who's ever selling it, you know, orders up another batch of them, and they make the bends wrong, or they get, you know, the guy. It's we're dealing in such low volume here that the stuff is literally, you know, handmade, and certainly British Motor Heritage isn't knocking out this kind of stuff. Used to, what was the place in England? Steel. Oh, Toolman. It was Toole Son that had they were making a whole lot of stuff for a while. Anyway, there's been a lot of quality, and those sills are. I just swear, anytime you buy a set of sills, you have to fiddle with them anyway to make them meet your car. All that inner stuff, you don't see it. You know, you weld to it, you grind it off, but actually the outer sill, and getting that radius right. Where are you calling from, Peter?
UK. It's 1 o'clock in the morning here, so
Oh my gosh.
trying to stay awake. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, try to keep it exciting so you don't wake, you don't nod off. You know.
Yeah.
So, what about
John?
is Anglo Parts still selling stuff? You guys get stuff from Anglo Parts?
I
They
think
were out of Belgium.
they're in Belgium, I think, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to use Brown and Gammons. I live a few miles from Swavesey, so I go down the
Oh,
road to the
yeah, sure.
MG Owners Club. Get some stuff from Bob West. He does a few, you know, obviously very high quality parts. You know.
Where do you live? Do you live in Over?
No, I'm near a place called Ramsey, which is
Okay.
it's near Huntingdon, which is about
Yeah,
just down the
okay.
road from Swavesey,
All right.
Yeah. Cambridgeshire. Yeah.
John,
Yeah.
another good source of material is Scarborough Fair.
Yes.
I've had some real good luck. I had my MGA body redone, and the parts tend to fit.
So yes, absolutely. Cecilia is the MGA gurus. I don't know what's the female form of a guru. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. She's been dealing with MGA parts forever. They used to have a catalog. They used to do a lot more advertising than they do now. But it's Scarborough Fair in Rhode Island. So yes, yeah, been there. So I see her every year at the NAMGAR meets and some other places too.
Oh,
They-
sure.
They would still be
They-
making MGAs if she worked in a quality department.
Yeah. The other good thing is I'm doing my MGA, and I found a painter here that does all the body work for on twin cams. And
Peter
so
Wood was that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's yeah. So I was fortunate.
It's Carl Heidemann. We go back to Carl because we're talking MGAs. He decided that his fantasy was to do MGA bodies. I think in the end, maybe he did 20 or 25 of them. And he told me that he'd have the fenders on and off, I don't know, a dozen times. You know, add a little bit of weld to it, grind it down a little, just trying to get the lines, just, I mean, real high quality, manically high quality. He didn't paint them. He'd get the body so it all fit. It's all great, and then he'd send it back to you. You went ahead and had it painted. So he had all the jigs to get all the openings correct. And when he ceased doing those bodies, he turned all that stuff over to Paul Deershaw at Sports Car Craftsman, the name that comes up on my Zoom every time I'm in Zoom. But Paul's they do MGA bodies. They've got all these jigs, and it's great because they don't need your chassis. As long as your chassis is straight and is because if you get a bent chassis, I had a guy in Houston who got his body all done and went to put it on, and it didn't fit the chassis because the chassis was bent. Twin cam. Anyway, Paul Deershaw's got all that stuff. So they do a nice job. And if you're going to take it someplace, you go, well, I'm in Reston, Virginia. Why would I take my car to Denver, Colorado? But when you're looking at the dollars, invested in that's what you see in the end. It's like, well, you have it shipped out there, or do you put it on a trailer and drive it up, whatever. Just don't out of sorts just disregard some option because it seems phenomenally distant or crazy or expensive. Always just keep that in the mix. And maybe it is too far, maybe it is too much, but keep it in the mix. So we did a lot of MGAs when I had my shop. A lot of T types. Well, we did a lot of Bs too, but a lot of MGAs, and had it right down. We'd have the rear fenders on those things. We'd have them all dressed out, half the interior in them. Wouldn't put the seats in the body because if you get a problem putting the body on the chassis, you could hurt the seat. But man, that was such a pleasure. You'd pick that thing up, you get 6, 7 guys in the shop, and you'd pick the whole thing up and walk it over, set it right down on top. And it's such a pleasure, such a pleasure. And then the customer come in and say, "Oh, it looks like you got something done." It's like, it took us half an hour, for all that prep work that you do with all the other little stuff. What other comments can I take about MGA restorations or T-type restorations, where we've got separate frame and chassis? That's what I'm dealing with here.
Well, John, I've got a problem right now that I'm facing. This is Bryson Penoyer. I've rebuilt the frame. All the engine work is all done. It's a running body. Chassis. I mean, it had Peter Hogeness up in Vista do the body work. He did a beautiful job. And I followed the instructions on putting down the weather stripping. When I put the body back on the car, I can't get the bolt holes to line up. So I'm about to lift the body back off, strip off the heavy weather stripping underneath, because I think that's interfering with the bolt hole alignments, and settle it back down again. Any thoughts on that? I mean,
no, you can do that. I wonder if you can use some kind of alignment pins. I mean, just the 1/4-inch bolts. You got 6 in the back or something or other, and of course you haven't got it way up front, but all across it's really across the bulkhead that you want to get it lined up as. So
right. It doesn't seem. What I think the problem is it's that 1/2-inch thick weather stripping rubber that goes along the sill and then up the brace for the firewall, and I think that's that part going up on the brace is causing me the.
That's supposed to be pretty crushable. That's supposed to squeeze. It's not like it's like open. I don't know if it's open. Can't be open cell foam, but it should squeeze pretty nicely. But maybe it's just too. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's just too thick.
I got it from Scarborough Fair, and you mentioned she's right on top of those kinds of things. But as you know, you can take a piece of foam rubber and squeeze it between your fingers, and it compresses. But when you put it on a 1-foot square surface, it's not as compressible anymore. It takes a lot more force.
It's got nowhere to go.
Got nowhere to go. Right. So I'm about ready to lift it off again and try it again.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I found when I put the body on mine, that crushed down, it looks very thick. That I think it's closed cell foam strip that runs on the other side of the chassis that the body sits down on, but it actually crushes down quite easily. The hardest bolts to get in, I think, just by the A post. Those didn't line up on mine, but I think it's because when the body had sat on the wooden trestle we had it on, I think it might have splayed out a bit. And we had to get some big sort of G clamps, as we call them over here, to sort of pull the body in a little bit there to get the bolts to line up to go into those holes by the A posts. But I think Don't
you put
tighten
the
everything
foam on-
down. Just
on
put them
the-
in finger tight to start with, because you can then jiggle it around a bit to get everything to line up. You
Yeah.
know, so
I'm with you. Did you also put that on the brace that goes up to the firewall frame?
uh,
The angle, that 45-degree angle, yes. You
Yeah.
should, that's where it goes.
yeah, I think it does run up there. You're right. Yes, yeah. But
Yeah.
I might have cut a little bit out around, obviously, where the bolt goes through, to obviously make sure that the trim it to make sure there's room for the bolt to go through. So yeah, it does. You're right. It runs up the 45-degree.
Right. Because I used 4 guide pins.
Right.
Put in the bolts, cut off the heads, put them in there as guide pins to drop it down. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, because once that body's on there, you can't jiggle it. It's and even using clamps. Oh boy, we had a guy with a TF who in T-types, you got to shim the bodies because the bodies don't even come close to the chassis unless you build them right on the chassis. Anyway, he had a pretty good sized gap, on at one end of the body. He just put a bolt down through it and started cranking on it. Of course, it buckled underneath the door. It's like he called me up. What did I do wrong? I said, well, dude, you should have used shims in there. Anyway, yeah, there's always a way to do it. But Bryson, I'm not sure what to tell you on yours.
Just
On the MGA, did you have any problems with those rear bolts over there in the very back?
no, not for me.
There's the two that are on angles back by the gasoline tank
Yes.
in the opposite side. Yeah.
I think those went on okay on mine. I don't think so. Just those 2 by the A post, the ones I remember being. Everything else went in. I mean, as John said, I think we had the body on in about 20 minutes. Four of us just lifted it on and bolted it down.
The lesson here is that you should always build your body on your chassis.
Yeah, exactly.
So that it fits your body fits your chassis, because it can fit. It can twist and bend. We always used two pieces of electrical conduit with a long threaded rod to go between the dashboard, the padded foam padded thing up there, and then the cockpit rail in the back. And you put the conduit on either side, and then put threaded rod through it and draw it so that the body couldn't fold. It stayed rigid. But
yeah, I braced mine across the cockpit like that.
Yeah.
To two pieces of sort of square metal tube.
Yeah. Do we have any more questions about restoration, T-type MGA restoration?
John, I would like to respond very briefly to a question you asked about a half hour ago.
Sure.
Whatever happened to acid rain? The answer is the same as a guy on this forum gave about several months ago. He was a retired inspection station manager in California. And the answer is the same as whatever happened to the ugly gray-red cloud I saw over Los Angeles when I drove down from the mountains in 1972. Federal regulation. It was horrible. It was ineffective until people figured out how to handle it and how to do it right. And all of us has dealt from some of those awful systems from the 1970s on our cars until they figured it out. But the answer for those two questions is the same. Acid rain, I live 2 hours from the southern Adirondacks, which was every lake in the Adirondacks was dying until the feds regulated the factories in Ohio and Indiana. And sorry, but it's got to happen.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute myself now. Thank you.
No, it's okay. That's thank you. Thank you. As I had a guy who used to come around. He was from the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, in the state of Michigan. He was an inspector. He did lakes and streams and stuff like that. This is give me a date, 1985. And I said, I just offhand, I said, how clean is stuff today compared to when you started? He said, oh my God, I can't call it pristine today. He said, but it's so much cleaner than it used to be. So thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much for saying that.
Hello, John. Howie.
Howard. Yeah, Howard, how are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Hey,
As
great.
the other guy in the UK said, yeah, it's a silly o'clock here at the moment. Just a quickie. Thanks for the picture of 78. Looked handsome then, didn't I?
Say again.
Remember, thanks for the picture of
yes, from
78.
1978. Yep.
Yeah, it looked pretty handsome then. Bit weathered since then.
So yeah, Howie and I worked together at University Motors in London, 72 and 73. He did electrics. He did electrics, and he and I went to the MG Car Club Black Horse production trials in Aldershot, the artillery range.
That's right.
One Sunday when it was raining, it was really, really raining. And there were all kinds of these courses going up in the middle of the woods. And it seems to me that the closer you got to the top, the fewer the points you scored. And the points, the whole game was to score as few points as you got. I don't remember, but wherever your car ceased forward motion, you'd get scored at 1 or 5, or if you got all the way to the top, as I remember, it was 0. But I don't know. And then there was an honest to goodness hill climb. And we bounced in the seats to gain traction. I was driving a TF. So yeah, that was.
I remember that.
That was back in the day, huh?
It certainly was. The other thing I was going to say to you is that I don't know if you remember that back in November last year, my mum was 100.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Still doing strong.
Well, please pass on. I remember having cream, something with cream on it at your house on Clitheroe Avenue at Hanwell, West 7.
That's right.
Yeah. And your dad was in the Royal Air Corps, right?
He was attached to the Canadian Air Force.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right.
He was in Bomber Command, Moose Squadron.
Yep. All right.
He was a flight engineer.
Okay.
So I think that's how he got hold of that Heinz machine manual.
Yes. Thank you. I still have that.
I still got a copy as well.
Yeah, I do. Hey, Howie, it's a pleasure. So you're up by York someplace, right?
I'm up Scarborough.
Scarborough, all right.
Yeah, nothing to do with Scarborough Fair Fabrications anyway.
Got it.
They're somewhere in the States.
Right.
Hey, can we meet
Anyway.
up sometime?
What's that?
Sorry?
Can we meet up sometime?
Yeah, can do.
My son works in Scarborough.
All right.
Planning on going there around Christmas.
So both of you send me a note and I will get you in touch with each other on your emails. Or if you want to, post it in the chat section. So, yeah.
John,
Absolutely.
question. All the time you were over there in the UK, did you ever go to the London Brighton run?
No.
Oh, you
No.
missed something.
No, I was 23 years old. I was chasing women, I did a
Caught mine.
I did a lot of MG stuff. I certainly did, but not everything. I did a lot of cool stuff. I went to the factory, had a tour of the factory. 1973 when they're just bringing out the MGB GT V8. But no, I didn't do the London. That Aldershot was my only, and I went to Brands Hatch, went to a race or was it the Silverstone? I can't remember now. The Brands Hatch, it was Brands Hatch. And anyway, yeah. And I drove a TF while I was there. I was about as thoroughly enmeshed as I could be, I actually joined the I don't know, what was it, Howie? The TUC, something or other, is the only union I ever joined in my life.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember now what it's called.
Yeah, I got the correspondence from the dear brother. All I could think of was brother.
Big brother.
Yeah, yeah.
John, do you know Lee Johnson in Northeast Ohio here?
Lee Johnson?
Yeah.
No.
You haven't met him. You'll meet him in June, and he'll have a story to not Lee Johnson, Lee Higgins. I'm sorry,
Oh,
Lee
okay.
Higgins of Kent, Ohio.
Oh, no, Lee Johnson's out of Detroit, right?
Well, no, it's a different one, but that's
All right,
okay.
okay, all right. Lee Higgins. All right, okay.
Lee Higgins' father was an American, but he married a British lady, and they stayed over there. And he drove a car in that London to Brighton run once.
Oh, very
And
cool.
some lady knitted a jumper just for him for this to wear, and Lee had it on when we went to. Oh goodness, I'm so.
And the ravages of age. Yes.
I'll tell you the
Lee
story in
has
June.
that,
He'll
what,
tell you the story in June.
1912?
What's that?
He has that 1912.
No, John, I did not go in 1912.
No, I said
20.
Lee owns the 1912. I
Oh,
forget what-
yeah, but that John, he owns a 1912 Sears wagon, little
I will.
Right.
2-cylinder. John.
We could go on like this all night, but I got to get over to my chat section. So,
Right.
So, all right. First thing on chat, all MG owners are invited to GOF Central in Newark, Ohio, or Newark, Ohio, if you're there. The website is in progress, but it's GOF Central, and that is sometime in July. And Jeff Fields was just on, and
John, it's June 17th, June, not July.
Okay,
Please
June.
come in June.
Did you hear that George Wakeman passed away?
Yeah, yes, and I was at
Okay.
the service here in
Oh,
Elyria.
all right, okay.
Okay.
I just learned that, so, okay. All right, next one, Jay Chap to everybody. Club members restoring a 34 Morgan 3-wheel needs to paint the chassis. Any recommendation for the paint? He's looking to sandblast the chassis. I'm hesitant and concerned that he will get sand where it doesn't belong. Yeah, that's right. I got a standard line about sandblasting, and it's like screwing on the beach. Sand gets everywhere. You cannot get all the sand out, but if it's a relatively open chassis, geez, you're pretty good with that on anything. I mean, anything chassis paint will work. Black Rust-Oleum is fine. Gloss. It's a live paint. It never fails. I mean, it doesn't dry out underneath. It always stays fluid. Rust-Oleum is great. And then you can get that POR, the paint over rust, even though there is no rust. You can just spray it to enamel, just black DAR 9000, just black enamel. So this isn't any kind of use.
One comment, real quick, John. Another one of our club members that we're all real proud of, because he's 20 years old and he bought 2 basket case MGAs, and he is in process of building 1 MGA from it. And he's doing an amazing job. And about a year from now, I hope I can maybe post a picture for you to see. But it's just fantastic to have a young man like that take on that project. We're all supporting him.
Very nice. Daniel Harrison, you can go on the Jay Leno station. I don't know how he's up on YouTube or what, but Daniel Harrison put together an MGA. I saw it in Solvang in 2017 at the GT out there. And here he is, later, Jay Leno driving his car, and they got the GoPro camera there, and they're talking is driving around. So, and Daniel isn't more than 25 now. So anyway, he's got the MGA all done. That's old time now. He's doing a TC. So it's really nice to see young people getting involved. So Next one up here, David Middlebrook. Following discussion in our last Zoom, I removed all the wiper parts, which I cleaned up. There's a seal that goes under the chrome bezel, which needs to be replaced, but I'm having difficulty getting them in Australia. Any idea? Geez, they're just elliptical. This is, are you still on, David?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Yeah, Moss Motors sells those.
Yeah, I know, but they're going to cost 10 times as much as they
I know,
worth
but
just to
so
have them sent out.
so it's going to cost you $15 Canadian. I don't even cut them. How do you cut something like that so perfectly with a hole in the middle and the ellipse on the outside? But it's the same on an MGB. Somebody's got to have them around. I know postage is just a killer, but
Yeah.
other than
Yeah, they're only worth 50 cents.
yeah, well, yeah, but you got to get one to you. So that's the secret on that kind of stuff. If you're going to order one, order order a
Yeah,
couple,
yeah.
because the shipping is such a killer. So yeah, other than that, I mean, Brown and Gammon's, everybody, MG Owners Club, everybody's got them. I don't know whose are better, but
Right. Okay.
and
Thanks.
and whatever the supplier in Australia that they don't have those.
No, they're out of stock.
Oh, okay, all right. It take a real finesse with a pair of shears to cut that. And actually, the new ones that you buy, half of them are just a little bit too small. So you cannot make a case for cutting them yourself. It's just getting the edge nice and clean.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what they're made from. What sort of material? What is
just a flat rubber stock. I mean, it's just.
So could you use rubber inner tube or something like that from a bicycle?
No, that's too squishy. That's too squishy. But something like that you must have hobby stores or supply, home supply stores. There's got to be something out there that'll do it for you. But I just I've never made any myself. I have tried, gave up because I couldn't cut it right. But we got a big auto parts place here in the States, Napa, and they have everything and all kinds of gasket material. You just go in there and you buy some gasket material and keep fiddling around with ellipses and holes until you get it. Wish I had a better answer.
What kind of part are you talking about?
What's that, Judd?
What is this part from?
Just underneath the wiper, underneath the wiper escutcheon, underneath the wiper, that chrome piece that goes on top of the wheel box, on top of the body.
Oh, okay. On an A.
Yeah, A or B or yeah. I mean
Yeah, it's on a B.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I'd send them to you, David, if I had them, but it wouldn't be any cheaper than if you order them from Moss. So let's see, Marty's got some stuff on here about where I'm going to be here. And then, oh, yeah, spring ahead this weekend. There we go. Yeah, David Wren. We're going the other way here in New Zealand. Okay, all right. Okay. Oh, man. Mark Anderson, 2023. Oh, that was just a joke about going the other way. And Marty's put up an article restoring an MGA, but that's an old article. I hope to improve on that, but she's got a link to it there. Bob Lord, to everybody. I'm replacing the right front hub and bearings for wire wheel MGA with new. Should the bearings slightly slip or close fit to the shaft? The new bearings do not go over easily. You want them to go over more easily than they go into the hub. I've not forced them yet. The old hub came off by hand. Or should I push the hub assembly on using the spindle, washer, and castle nut? There's no problem putting it on. There's no problem. Are you still on here? Um,
John.
Bob Lord?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so there's no problem putting it on. I mean, you can put it on any way you want, use a socket on the inner race, pound, 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 put the thing on. The problem comes when you want to take it off again, right? That's the issue. So, so I would take some sandpaper and just loop it over the spindle and clean it this way, upside down, you know, and just get that as clean as you can. You don't want the bearing to slide onto it,
Right.
but you want it to go on with just a little bit of interference.
That makes sense to me, because it didn't make sense to have both interference fit on the outer hub and the inner.
No. In the shop, we you know, you go to pull the drum off and or the hub, depending, you know, and like it would all come off. You could get it off with a hub puller, you know, it'd come right off, and there lies the inner bearing, and the seal. Now, how are you going to get that off?
Right.
You know, so then now you got to use a slide hammer and some other hocus pocus in there. So yeah, just clean up that hub some more.
Very good. Thanks, John.
Where are you?
Reading, Pennsylvania.
Okay, all right. Bill Caden, the best way to go about paying someone else to do the work is by agreeing upon progress payments. So much when agreed on milestones are reached, and the owner and restorer are in agreement. Yes, that's just like building a house. You get a frame up, you get the payment. On the other hand is the guy's shop, and so he's going to tell you how he wants payment. But the real secret is don't pay ahead, and don't expect him to hold your note. We got to the place in my shop where we were doing a lot of restoration work, and you can't do a whole restoration and then you give a guy a bill for, make up a number here, $67,000. He can't. First of all, he can't pay it. Can't pay it, no matter how much he's thought about it and sort of planned on it. We used to charge every week, or maybe for a couple $100 we wouldn't charge, but we charged every week, and we'd send pictures, and it always worked out. So that's just got to be really cautious. Got to be cautious.
We're honest.
What's that?
You were honest.
Tried to be. Yep. And in those circumstances where I was, I mean, we didn't please everybody. I tell you that, but we tried to. So yeah. So Jay Chap, I still have my great grandfather's hatchet, all original. I just replaced the handle twice and the head 3 times. Is it all original? Yeah, I've heard that before. So that is it. So you can make a case for people say, jack up the radiator cap and change the car. Yeah. Is it still the same car? Has it got Abingdon air? Has it got the Abingdon tires? So forth. Martin Heisel, just thought today was the perfect MGA driving weather in the middle of winter in Canada. Martin, are you still on?
Yeah, I am.
Where are you
Hi,
from?
good to see you.
Yeah.
London, Ontario. It's not too far from you.
Well, that's the same. That's the same as Grand Rapids. You guys are in the same latitude we are. Yeah, I don't know. We're here in Gulf Shores a couple of different times. In Gulf Shores, Alabama. I've been down here for 4 weeks already. Going home this coming Saturday. A couple of times it's been the same temperature here as at home. And I was driving back from Glenn's MG service. I was talking to my girlfriend here, and she said, I just checked the temperature at home. She said, and it was, I don't know, it was 31 at home and it was 39 here. She's like, I can't believe we spent, thousands of dollars for 8 degrees. But Fahrenheit, it sounds worse where you are for a couple degrees, so.
Oh, no, it felt like a beautiful spring day today. And I think about a week ago we had snow, so hopefully we'll avoid it for a little while, but you never know.
Hey, hey, who knows? Yeah, who knows? So, okay. Pleasure. Pat Guest, what do you recommend to replace the floorboards on an MGA? 3/8, ½ inch, 5/8, CDX, marine, epoxy, use marine grade plywood. 3/8. I think originally it wasn't 3/8. It wasn't, but it wasn't half. What did I use on mine? I used some thicker stuff, but you want to use Pat, you want to use marine grade, like 7-ply. That's what I remember counting the plies in my floorboards when I took them out, their original in 1980. And it was like 7 plies, and it was like 5/8 thick or something like that. No, it wasn't even that thick. Maybe it's half inch, but it's like 7 plies, all back and forth, is really durable stuff. And if you just paint them black, it's just fine. So I don't know what's available from the various manufacturers. I've never bought floorboards for MGAs, and it's been a long time since I bought them for T-types. So here we go. John Jershak says 9mm. That's just over 5/16. Russian birch. You can buy it in 4x4 sections, which is enough to do one set of floorboards. If you have any problems, email me. So John Jershak can help you out with that. That's nice. I don't think on an MGA floorboard there's any routing. You have to do some routing on T-type floorboards.
John,
yes.
on those floorboards, I think they're 5-ply, the 9mm. There's
Okay.
no voids in between there. And with that Russian birch, they will hold up better than the marine plywood. They're kind of rot resistant.
Okay.
And they are they're the same size as the original floorboards that came from the factory on that part. On the floorboards that you can buy or you make, even if you got the patterns, when you put them in the car, they're not just going to slide in there and fit. You still have to fiddle around with them for your car.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's always a lot of hand fitting. And then if if you drill the holes, then you would normally you take a 1/4 inch or a 3/16 drill bit, just go up through the holes from the bottom. They have somebody brave stand on the middle of the floorboard so you don't push it out of the way, and drill up all the holes up from the bottom so that you got a center line, and then go a little larger than go to 5/16 or something so you can get your 1/4 inch bolts in there. Yep.
Those washers that they have that are concave on there, all
Yep.
you gotta do is get a regular washer and get a large nut, bigger side, then pound them in there. They'll go down yourself. It's a cheap way of getting those instead of buying.
Okay. Thank you. And Dwayne Schmidt says, comment about plating all the bolts. Were the bolts on the TCs, TDs, and TFs plated? I don't know. Now that you probably not. They're probably put into place and then painted afterwards. Does that make sense? I know a lot of them were plated, all the ones around the firewall and stuff like that. But then there's the bolts that hold the fenders in. But it seems to me originally those also had some body color on them. So I'm not sure, but I'm a firm believer in zinc plating. But if you're going for that originality stuff, you have to consult somebody that knows more about the originality than me. So now Marty's got a long list here of books, MGA books on here that are helpful. Vitricus, Adam Booth. Yep, Malcolm Green, I mentioned that. I can't remember Booth. Styles, I remember that one. Vitricus, yes, absolutely. Got another one here by Styles. F. Wilson McComb, he did lots and lots and lots of little books. They're not very detailed. And Clausinger, he's the guy, but he's not a mechanic either. All he's doing is telling you where the change points were, which you can tell if you buy one of those parts manuals. But it's got pictures. It's very, 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 very helpful. The twin cam book. So anyway,
Excuse me, John.
yeah.
You know who else does that with the nuts and bolts? Is Tom Metcalf down at Safety Fast Restoration. Then he can say everything is original.
So does he plate all that stuff?
Well, he has it done.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Up at Custom Chrome in Grafton. Ever been to Grafton, John?
44044, that Grafton? Yep. Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, I get all my fasteners plate. You don't plate the bolts that go inside the engine, engine studs, stuff like that. You don't get those plated, but anything that's on the outside that shows. So, all right. So this is from Bill Weekly. John, I've restored 2 MGAs for under $25,000 each. I did almost everything myself, with the exception of the engine machine work, major sandblasting, chrome work, and body painting. I'd love to do another. So there, that's proof in the pudding. Bill, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
There's a picture of you did you see your picture in the constant contact mailer that I sent out?
No.
About the meeting tonight? Go back and take a look at that. And there's a picture. There's a picture of you in a tech seminar. No, it wasn't there. It was on Facebook or something. Anyway, there's a picture of you at a gearbox seminar from like 2002 or something or other. So yeah, all right.
That gearbox is still doing fine, actually.
Great. So you, how long ago did you do those MGAs for $25,000?
The last one I finished 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. So this is still a relatively modern price. So okay, all right.
But you have to be willing to do a lot of the work.
Oh, you've got it. Yeah. Yes. All of it, except the parts you can't do yourself. Yep. All right. Well, hey, thank you. Thanks for, yep. Marty continues to add, here's a nice one by Tom, pictures up here, Tom Gunderson. You've just made some noise, so that's come on. That looks real sweet there. But the grill's in, bonnet's not on, but the grill's in. So you take that grill out before you put the bonnet back on. So, oh no, I mean that's really, that's just, that is the truth. Although there is some way to fit the grills now. I haven't done it myself, and I don't know how to do it, but I know it's out there. The information's out there, so that you can take the grill out if you have to, without wrecking it, so you can get that bonnet open. So. David Alexander writes in and says, Moss Europe does the online parts manual, which you can search. So I don't know if they've got the same pictures, illustrations as Moss US. And those pictures are good, but they're tiny. They're the size of a postage stamp. Even if they're the size of a 3x5 file card, they're not as nice as a legal sized 8.5x14 plate. Great big plate. Those drawings are so beautiful. And here we got a note. Marty's got another one here about Gord Watley at Armchair Motorist. Gord's got a lot of books up there. A lot of books. So Terry, to everybody, I took Carl's class in early February. Is very helpful. Was that this year, Terry? This early February?
Yep, it was. It was beginning of February. I brought
All right.
my welder and my wife and the dog and packed them up, and we drove up to Holland and
Hey,
had a
very-
weekend class. It was great.
how many people in the class?
There were 6 of us.
Okay, all right, so that's a perfect sized class, you know, and, but what are Carl's five, doesn't he have 5 rules? I missed one.
It was, you can't weld rust, you can't weld air, can't weld what you don't see. I have the book here, but I forgot it. The other 2.
That's all right. The other ones were being in a good mood and being comfortable.
Oh yeah, and he's right about the good mood. That does make a difference. Don't weld angry.
You can't weld when you're mad. And I remember he's talking to me about watching one of those motorcycle shows on television where the guy sort of turns his head and reaches behind him and welds something up. And Carl says, "It's not, you can't weld what you can't see." Come on. But that's for television, right? So, yeah. All right. So Carl Heidemann at Eclectic Motor Works. And Marty's ahead of me on all this stuff. So Carl's still having these training sessions. I'm just dreaming about doing more tech seminars at my shop too. I should really do that. Here we go. Dean Hickenlooper says TCP Tango Charlie Papa Global in California has original paint codes in single stage or two stage. So that's interesting. TCP Global. I had no idea that this stuff was even, you could even do this. Find somebody who claims that they have the original paint colors. So that's good. That's and Marty right on top of it here's got the link to it. Here's Sports Car Craftsman in Arvada. Pat Guest. What's involved in replacing the wiring harness? Is it okay to do that after you restore the frame and body? Well, yes. So you paint the body. The body's absolutely positively bare. You paint the body and then drill the hinges so you got location points. Take the hinges for the doors, the hinges for the bonnet too. Better to drill them probably before you paint, and you can get those out of the way, and then you get the body on the sawhorse, and oh my gosh, it's just a dream. You put the heater motor in, and the control box, and the fuse box, and the wiper motor, and the windshield. You can put the windshield in. You can put soft top on. You can put a lot of stuff on. The more stuff you put on, the heavier it gets. So the harder it is to lift it up, the more people you need to lift it up. But here you are, and you can step inside the car, or you can reach around stuff, and you don't have to fight with a frame or floorboards or anything. So yes, put that wiring harness in after you've painted it for sure. So John Tershak has got his stuff in here, and here's Daniel Harrison's 58 MGA on the Jay Leno show. Marty's got that on here. Do I pay you enough, Marty? Anyway, David Middlebrook, I was expecting her to come on and say no. David Middlebrook, following discussion at last Zoom, I removed all the wiper parts, which I cleaned up, and the seal that goes under the chrome bezel, he's already been on that. Can't find him in Australia. We talked about that. And we've got 5 Paul Walbram motors in Auckland, New Zealand. So maybe they've got something that's closer than California or Cecilia at Scarborough, wherever. So, and Marty's got a couple links here for prior Zoom sessions. Sean, everybody, regarding sanding the chassis, I suggest looking at how Ed China used a new product called EvapoRust to remove all the rust inside and out. It has no VOCs and does not harm paint. I bought some and it works great. No more wire wheel grinding or nasty caustic chemicals. Sounds like an ad. Anyway, Sean, are you still on? So anyway, so here. we
I
go.
agree, works great.
Okay,
Takes time.
okay.
Yeah, we've used it and it does take time, but it really works great.
Okay.
Harbor
I
Freight
just,
has it.
I just saw on YouTube, a guy, another use for the laser, besides taking off unwanted tattoos, was removing rust. They had a sump from probably some American car or something or other. It's just a pile of rust. And they just back and forth and back and forth, and it looked like brand new metal. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. So here we go. We got more. Let's see. Here we got Bill Cadden and agreeing to just to comment about the process of paying someone else to do a job, just doing it carefully, just watching what's going on, because it can get out of control so quickly. And Alan Thompson says, that sounds great. It would be good if there was a template somewhere. I hadn't thought about the word template. I'm going to write that down because that is what I'm talking about. Not exactly how to cut the threads or restore threads, but just how to get stuff sequencing. Sean, everybody. Regarding sending the chassis, I suggested looking at China, and here we go. We got that. We got a link to him. Mark Welland. Why don't you plate the internal engine hardware? Because I've heard, I'm not exactly sure it's true, but when you plate internal hardware, first of all, it has to go through an acid bath. So aqua regia, something like that. I mean, you get dealing with sulfuric and nitric acids. So you're taking a little bit of metal off, and then you're putting a little bit of metal on, and the surfaces aren't the same. And we're dealing with torquing. And when you're torquing a nut, the torque ends up being is absolutely phenomenal. You got the friction from thread to thread. You got friction against the surface that you're turning, and that eats up about 80% of the torque, and that leaves only 20% of the torque for stretch. And if you plate it, things change. And I don't know what things change, but I've been warned against. So it's just old mechanics rules. And then Bill Cadden comes in and says you don't want the plating to come off on the inside of the engine, but there is an oil filter, so that's helpful. Well, hey, we are at 7:55, and I'm all the way through my my meeting chat tonight. So I'm going to open it up, and if we haven't covered something, or somebody wants to revisit some kind of issue or talk about anything, I am all ears for a while.
Hey, John, I got it's called Hastings about that ring problem I was having, and
oh yeah,
he gave me some people to call, and the first one was the rest of them were they didn't deal with public, but the first one was Hart's Machine Service in Cecil, Ohio. He didn't call me back until I'd already taken the old rings and put it in, but I didn't put the head on yet. But he says, yeah, I can get them. He does a lot of British cars. He doesn't do the whole car. He just does machine shop stuff, but real pleasant guy. He did call me back. And so I just put a shout out to that. It's
so
hard.
the reason Bob's talking about this is he's down to putting his second to the last ring on the piston, maybe the last ring on the piston.
Last ring.
And I always just use my thumbs and opened it up too far. Those things are pretty brittle and crack. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So I said, well, you hunt around for another ringer. I said, do you have your old rings? And he said, yeah. I said, well, you can put the new ring at the top and an old ring at the second position. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you know, my standard line is do the cheapest, easiest, simplest stuff first. So now you gotta decide whether to take it all back apart and get the one new ring.
I'm gonna sleep on it. Yes, I
Okay.
didn't ask him the price, but whatever it is, it's probably gonna be worth it. But
Yep.
I'll tell you what, he said right now he's working on a twin overhead cam Jag engine, a Hillman Manx. It just a wide variety. He said he does a lot of British cars, just
Okay.
engine work. So
So
I'm gonna
what's this guy's name again?
the shop is Hart's Machine Service,
Hartz.
Harts
Okay.
Machine Service, Cecil,
Ohio.
Ohio. And
Okay.
even
All
have
right.
his telephone number, but it's he did call me back, and I think his name was Paul.
Okay. All
Really
right.
decent guy. Anybody that call you back after a few hours, it took him a few hours to find one where he could locate it. So if I need something like that again, he's got my business.
Hey, very nice. Very nice indeed.
So, and it was such a beautiful day. I could have had the whole engine put together if that hadn't happened. But tomorrow's another day, about 70 degrees. It's going to be cooler tomorrow. 70. It was 74 today.
Oh my gosh, that's warmer than it was here.
Yeah, see, you picked the wrong time.
Go figure. It's been really, really cloudy down here this year. Or misty, I guess. I mean, on one side of the buildings, we're in some high rises right on the beach, but on one side, the beach side, it's all mist. You can't see the beach. We're up at the 18th floor. You can't see the beach. You turn around, you can see out in the parking lot, and across you can see the Mobile Bay on the other side, but you can't see south. Go figure.
At least you got a nice room to stay in.
Hey, it's nice. It's real comfortable. So anybody else got anything here to talk about before
Hey,
we
John?
sign?
Yeah, John.
Yes.
I just wanted to plug British Speedo in Golden's Bridge, New York. I had my midget speedometer repaired there. When I took it out of the car, parts fell out of it, and it came back working perfectly.
Okay. British Speedo. Where are they in New York?
Golden's Bridge.
Yeah.
The guy there, Michael, that I talked to, said they were trained by Neisinger.
Okay.
He used to work at Neisinger, and now he's got his own shop up
Hey.
there. Beautiful work. The Speedo works perfectly. No more jitter. It's great.
Okay. Well, Neisinger was for anybody on the East Coast was the go-to place. Other people were doing clocks and speedos and temp gauges. John Wolf in Ohio, and there's somebody in Minnesota. Somebody up in London, Toronto was doing them, and then MoMA in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and West Valley Instruments, which is half of MoMA when they separated Morris. But anyway, this is a new one. British
Speedo.
British Speedo. Okay.
And I had it back within a week.
He's not busy yet. Good. All right. Okay. It's very cool. Thank
Hello,
you
John.
very much. Yes, sir. Tom.
Tom Gunderson. How are you today?
Great.
You see my car there. I'm in the middle of doing my restoration. I was caught in a fire in my shop, and my car was toasted.
Oh.
So I'm putting it all back together, and I'm doing the wire harness and everything, having a little bit of problems with little gremlins. Does somebody have a diagram of how the 1500 series wire harness goes? Because I got a couple of wires that I've got the color code and everything, looking at that, and I don't know, it just hadn't made some sense out of it.
Do you have those wires in your head right now, or do you want to call me tomorrow and we can sort it out?
I'd love to call you. That would be amazing.
Sure. Yep. It's you have a pencil?
Yeah. Let me I'm on mute here. I'm gonna go get something, and you can give me your number in a little bit. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome.
John, I did have another question.
Yeah, Bob.
But I'm putting the studs back in the head.
5
Or
pounds.
Head in the. You're reading my mind.
Well, what other question? There's 4 long ones and 7 short ones. I mean, where they go isn't going to be a question. The
No,
only
I
question's
know
how
where they
tight.
go. When I
Yeah.
took them out, Glory put a taper on them with a number.
Okay,
And
just in by, if you got a, if you got a 1/4 inch drive ratchet,
yeah,
with a stud remover on it, just that much with your wrist. Just
should I put a dab of grease on the
oh,
threads?
you oil everything. Oil everything.
Oil everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oil is my friend.
Yeah, I was just reading about fasteners last night. What do you read about at night? But fasteners, that's why I was able to say that like 80% of the torque goes into the interference of the threads, and where which is the case here, and only 20% of it ends up actually stretching, and that doesn't have to do with going into the block. It just doesn't make it. It just got to be snug so that when you take the nut off, it's sometime in the future the nut comes off and the stud doesn't come with it. So 10 pounds is just, or 5 pounds is just fine.
Okay, that's almost like your hand, 5 pounds.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and I did have a couple of them came out with the nut on them. So
it's uncanny. And then sometimes I had that happen at Glenn's when I was torquing the Silverhead, and I backed one of them off, and the stud came out with it, and I took the stud in one hand and the nut in the other, and I spun the nut off of the stud, and it's like, well, this doesn't make sense unless you think to yourself, well, the resistance to turn was less in the block than it was between the nut and the stud. That's why the whole thing came in. So 5 pounds is enough to hold.
The other thing, when I torque them down, I always start like 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40.
Yeah, I do it 10.
I take it to 52.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 55. Yeah, do them oiled.
55, yeah. Yeah, because I don't want to have to. And then they told me if you do it more than 50, you don't have to re-torque them later on. So I don't know. I might
you hear a lot of stuff. I don't know. I don't know what's true. I only know what I've been doing for the better part of 50 years. And that is you torque it and then you let the engine run in for half an hour at 2,000 RPM, just let it run in, and don't walk away. Just stand by it. I mean, play on your phone if you have to, but then shut it off and retorque. You don't have to back them off and oil them, just retorque.
I couldn't understand why you'd want to back them off.
Not here, not there, no. But after spending in the car for a couple of years, yes, yeah.
But yeah, this I've learned a lot from you and Steve Shivington. That, and I'm still learning. I hate to bother you all the time, but
it's okay. It's all right. It's okay.
You seem to enjoy.
I'm just glad your niece didn't need the $500.
Oh yeah, that's.
Yeah. I was like, nah, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, my email was hacked, and that's not even my email. My email is travelingmg@juno.
Oh, okay.
This is travelingmg1.
They're all. I mean, they're thieves. They've always been thieves.
They got our address book.
They're just different. They're different thieves now. So yeah.
Yeah, if somebody wants to send me money, that's okay. But
I don't think it'd go to us.
That guy's going to get it. You're about the 26th person who mentioned that I got hacked. So I'm expecting a lot more phone calls and emails and texts.
Do we have any more comments here? I'm waiting for.
Yeah, John.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, John.
You just muted yourself, Jim.
There we go. When I was resurrecting my MGA, I got it as a basket case. I ended up really relying a great deal on Barney's MGA site.
Sure.
And one thing he recommended to be able to take the grill out without damaging it in case your hood wouldn't open, is to cut a slot in the 3 or 4 bolts in the upper section of the grill. Now, I did that, of course, like most everything Barney recommended I did, of course. And about a couple years ago, I couldn't open, the latch mechanism wasn't working at all. So all I did was to take the grill out by sticking a screwdriver up through the vertical slots and being able to remove those 3 or 4 upper bolts. The bottom 4 bolts can be taken out with a regular ratchet wrench from underneath. So I was able to take the grill out and able to find the problem with the latch mechanism.
Excellent. Well, that's it. That's it. The question is, can you do it without wrecking the grill or wrecking your finger? I had an employee, and fire came in, bonnet was jammed shut, and I said, just get in there and look in there, see if you can get something hooked around that and pull it. Well, he put his finger in there, and he kept pushing his finger and pushing his finger, and the grill slat. This is yucky. Cut into his knuckle and cut deeper and deeper and deeper. And I don't know, he didn't say anything. And then like 2 days later, he's got his finger still bandaged. And he says, well, if I take the bandage off and bend my finger, it starts bleeding again. I said, well, what? Anyway, that was, he ended up with a hand surgeon. So yeah. Yeah, put those slots in there, and it's on Barney Gaylord's site, mgaguru.com.
And also, for that matter, I also used Barney's site for I relied on that a great deal for the electrical wiring, because I rewired my MGA a little bit to get around some of the problems I thought with the 1962 design series for that car.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Marty's got a nice site out there. Absolutely.
Marty's really good. She's got Hart's Machine Service up there, their address and number. Maybe you don't pay her enough.
So
you know what else you were talking about restoration? My car's never been restored, but it's an ongoing restoration for 40 years.
A rolling restoration.
Yeah,
Anytime anything happens, you fix it.
Yeah, and it still looks like a daily driver.
Nice. Nice.
Hey, John.
Hey.
I'm kind of late to the party here. I had another meeting to go to. But
yeah.
I discovered something that you had talked about before. I'd never seen it before, but a friend of mine bought a 1980 MGB LE from Texas. Supposedly all the mechanicals have been done, and fresh engine, overdrive transmission, all this other stuff. Didn't pay a lot of money for it. But he brought it to my house, or actually I brought it to my house, and he wanted me to get it running because the fuel pump wasn't working. It turned out the new fuel pump was bad. It was one of those little electronic units. And so I put another electronic unit in it, and it was fine. That started it up. And once I let it warm up, he didn't have the breather pipe from the tappet cover connected. It has a downdraft Weber on it, and it's a non-LE head. It doesn't have the water takeoff on the back, and I've never seen one before, but it has an M where the water takeoff would be. You know, I know they have different letters and things on some of these, but it had the 18, but it had an M where the water takeoff would be. Anyway, let it warm up, drove it down the street and back. It still had that hesitation from the typical downdraft Weber thing. But I popped the bonnet open, was looking at it, and seeing this smoke puffing out of the tappet cover vent. But then I saw steam coming out of the left side of the motor, well, actually the right side of the motor, above number 2 spark plug. I thought, what the hell?
Above the spark plug.
Above the spark
Oh, how
plug.
sad. Yeah, yeah.
It was a cracked head. I'd never seen one before, but here was a
Okay.
cracked head. Basically, going back to your thing about chamfering that the stud holes so that you don't unbalance the head when you bolt it down. Apparently, this guy didn't do that, so he had some issue. Apparently, the head had been rebuilt. It had been planed. It had been all the stuff, but it apparently he warped it and it cracked.
Oh boy.
Never seen it before.
Yeah, well, I mean, I talked to Glenn, and he's seeing stuff now fail that I never saw fail. Often new parts, just stuff that I if I was still in it, I'd still be watching stuff. But we saw everything fail. I mean, I saw a wheel bearing, an MGB wheel bearing fail so badly that it snapped off the end of the stub axle. It was blue. It got really hot, and why would you see that? It's just that kind of stuff. You just don't. Anyway, interesting. Yeah, that's so sad. Or when you take the spark plug, you're doing a tune up, and it's just like straightforward, and it's like walking to the doctor's office, and the guy makes a couple quick checks on you. He goes, dude, you got freaking cancer. It's like, whoa, I didn't even know. You just don't even know. It's like, oh my gosh, really? So yeah, getting steam out of the spark plug hole is like that too. Although sometimes you can kid yourself and say, well, maybe it's the head gasket.
My friend who owns the car, I called him up and I said, bad news. So he immediately came down and had to see it for himself. I sent him a video of it, puffing smoke, and he couldn't believe it.
Very cool. Somebody was going to go and grab a pencil here to grab my phone number, but maybe he'll go on online.
Marty already put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
It's already there.
All right. Thank you, Marty.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I didn't see it in the chat. This is Tom.
Okay.
616.
Yeah.
307
hold on. I was looking for John to call it out. I think I see it. Is it 616?
Yep.
Okay, I've got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of phone numbers, the crazy stuff when you're a true blue MG fanatic, the area code in this part of Alabama is 251. And of course, all the MG serial numbers, all the car serial numbers began with 251 until the TF. The TF was the first one once they went from the Nuffield organization to BMC. That was the first one to carry a different beginning serial number, and it carried a 501 serial number, the TF did. And then they thought they'd make it continuous. So the TF then goes to the MGA. So they start at 501. They made 9,600 TF. So that now we're at 10100. And so the first MGA is 10101. That's cool. And the last MGA is 110 something. I don't know. I can't rattle that off the top of my head. I don't know it. But then when they started the MGB, they started 101. It's like, what? And then there's another year around 70, I don't know, 76, 77, where they put a gap in the production numbers. So it wasn't continuous. And they began the new year with the three ending numbers 251. Somebody just did that because they knew that they should. But anyway, the area code here is 251, and 2 + 5 + 1 = 8. So it's an octagonal number, and that was the number at the factory at Abingdon. Abingdon 251 was the factory phone number. Anyway, it is now 9:17 Eastern, 8:17 where I am. And we are down to, we've gone all the way through our chat. We've talked about MGA restoration a little bit. I've got some more ideas. I'm going to put some more ideas together, and I won't be able to make a whole template about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because everybody wants to do it maybe a little different way. I didn't say anything about fender welting tonight. I should have. We're down to 80. We got 86 people. 6 of whom are still awake. The other 80 are drifting away. I hate MGA fender welting. It's gray. It's so ugly. Black always looks so much better. And you can buy Volkswagen T welting that fits just great, and the quality of it is so much better. Looks better. It's not original, but it looks so much better. Anyway, thank you all for being here tonight. If you have a chance, go to one of the websites, universitymotors.online or universitymotorsltd.com, and find the PayPal button and say thank you for more information. And if you need something, call me. I'm always pleased to answer your phone call. I don't answer all my emails. I wish I did, but I don't. But if you want something, call me. I will answer that, and we'll go from there. So our next meeting will be 2 weeks from tonight. So let me look at that. It's the 18th of March. So that'll be on a Monday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Time. So
I think that's the 23rd of March.
Well,
No, 18th.
it is.
18th is Monday.
No. He's saying, when do we go on daylight savings? I thought it was coming up like this coming weekend, because I've been seeing all these notes about it.
It is.
The 9th.
So it used to be the 23rd, maybe, in the old way that we did it. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got Zoom written here on the 11th instead of the 4th. My error.
That's because no. That's because I probably was going to do it on the 11th, but here I am down here, and I thought, you know what? I'll do it from here, and then it balance it out. Excuse me. Let me get my present tense correct. Balances it out correctly for the rest of the month.
Thanks for taking part of your vacation to do this.
Yeah. Hey, twice. Been on the Zoom twice from Gulf Shores, Alabama, with our whole condo is filled with gold spray painted starfish and stuff. It's like, yuck. But hey, each his own. So, all right. Well, anyway, ladies, gentlemen, very kind. Yep. Thank you very much. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody again in a couple of weeks. Don't know what we'll talk about. If you get some ideas, send them to me by email or call me or something or other, and we'll find a hot topic before we go back to sharing the screen with Fred Horner and talking about SU carburetors again. Those are the ones. If I want to get 250 people online, I just say it's going to be about SU carburetors, and oh my gosh, the numbers just explode, because that's the holy grail of MGs. No one understands how they work, so it's like, oh, I got to listen to that again. And
They're so simple. I don't understand that, because they're so simple.
Anyway,
Gloria was telling somebody on at one of the shows how to adjust and rebuild his SU carburetors, and I thought because she was a woman he'd be upset. No, he was asking questions, but they're so simple. They're kind of fun to do.
Do you know what the hardest part of those SUs are? Is getting those air filters off on an MGA.
So the trick on that, again, this is not original, but you got those loops on an MGB on the back of the carburetors, same width, same size, same everything. Is take those MGA air filters and drill them right through 5/16, use longer bolts, use those loops on the back, and they go right in.
Sacrilege.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but it's so much easier on the hands.
Oh my gosh. Well, and then all right, so the next, if you can't stand that, if that's just too horrid, then you use internal star washers on the back there, because those, once you get them turned off like three flats, then you can spin them the rest of the way by hand. Because if you're using good spring washers, oh my gosh, you got to unscrew them 2 turns or something before that helical spring stops scraping the side of the bolt. But again, Fred would say, sacrilege.
Did you say drill them out with the 3/16?
No, 5/16, bolt size. So you can run a bolt all the way through. Right now, you get a bolt coming in front and rear. You know, it's like, just drill it all the way through and put that loop. Look in the Moss catalog for an MGB air cleaner. There's a loop back there. Just get 2 rear ones. You're home free. I took my MGA air cleaners and cut out the inside of them and put the MGB aluminum radius fitting on there to get 2 extra horsepower. And so I just ended up I had to do that. And of course, it's got different spacers in it, so it's kind of a jiggly thing to get together. But once you get it together and the bolts through it, then you can set it right into place. So
Thank you.
we can talk all night. So Fred, thanks for being on tonight. And even though you came on a little later than usual, so thanks very much. And Doc Rosefield, nice to see you here. Tom Snook, nice to see you. Bob Lord, nice. Brad Schwartz, thank you. Yep. So thanks for everybody.
Thanks, John.
Yep. Thanks for being on here.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Thanks,
Hey.
John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thanks a lot, John.
Thanks,
John. Good night.
Thanks, John, for coming on.
See you, John.
See ya.
Good night. Thank you, John. Good
Enjoy
night.
the rest of your vacation.
Will do.
Hey, what's Marty's PayPal?
Just my name.
Oh, Steve Shivington's on tonight. Hey, nice, Steve. Thank you for being here.
John, hi.
Yep. How you doing?
Good. Hold
Good.
up. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So what was the official count?
174.
Oh my, okay. Nice. Yep, I forgot to say anything about that. So I'll see everybody I'll see lots of people in Chicago on the 20, I think it's, what's it?
24th.
24th, yep. All right.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night,
John.
Marty.